Dragon Ball could have looked completely different. It already has seemingly endless number of transformations. 3 Super Saiyan forms in the original manga, 6 if you count grades, and that's before Super, GT, Daima heroes, and everything that multiplied the number into insanity. But that original Super Saiyan is iconic and sleek, lightning in a bottle. But the path to get there, and other forms, wasn't perfect. To get to the transformations we know and love today, there had to be plenty of trial and error. Forms that were thought of by the talented staff and even Toriyama, some that even showed up to represent something possible, only to go down a different path. We do have concepts for various characters like Frieza, Buu, and Cell, but that's for a different, bigger video I'm working on down the line. For now, we're focusing on Saiyan transformations that never really were. Let's start with something simple. Super Saiyan Blue, the face of Dragon Ball Super. It's hard to believe that we lived in a world without it once, now that it's become such an integral part of the franchise. But even then, it could have been very different. In an interview with Toyotaro for the Dragon Ball Super manga, Akira Toriyama revealed that Super Saiyan Blue was going to be Super Saiyan White in Resurrection F. Honestly, it would have been a striking color choice for the new form after God. A lot of fans already assumed Blue would eventually become the next step after Super Saiyan God, or just Vegeta's version of the form. Blue following Red just kinda makes sense. However, Toriyama explained that he chose against going with White because the color would have clashed with an upcoming villain. At the time of this interview's release, we were still in the Universe 6 tournament, so this served as a crazy tease for what was to come. Even Toyotaro was surprised in the interview. This, of course, turned out to be Zamasu and merged Zamasu. Instead of changing Zamasu's design, Toriyama changed the entire transformation color. It's not like we've never seen Kais with other hair colors before. We wouldn't even see Zamasu nor Goku black for over a year. So it shows that Toriyama and the production team were at least cooking something behind the scenes. Since we're on the subject of blue, as a quick fun fact, Super Saiyan Blue Evolution was meant to only change physically while keeping its colors intact. You can see the more teal color in the character sheet, reinforcing the idea that it's just a new grade for Super Saiyan Blue. But maybe someone in the coloring team didn't think this was enough of a change, and they made the colors a darker, richer blue, more similar to copy Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue of all people. A small change, but a notable one. As you can see, these changes never stopped happening. Even modern Dragon Ball is still tweaking transformations. But if we really want to understand how these forms evolved, we should really go back to the main one that started it all: Super Saiyan. We're all used to the greenish eyes and blonde hair, but this wasn't always the case. In fact, Super Saiyan's first appearance wasn't even in the manga. See, Dragon Ball Z Movie 4, Lord Slug, has a completely different name in Japan: Super Saiyan Son Goku. In this film, Goku achieves a new form, which we normally call false or pseudo Super Saiyan. But in the context of the film itself, at the time this came out, this really was supposed to be Super Saiyan. It's crazy to think about now. But Lord Slug released on March 9th, 1991, while Goku's actual Super Saiyan transformation debuted in the manga 10 days later, March 19th. Meaning this pseudo-Super Saiyan was really the public's first glimpse at what a Super Saiyan could be. Obviously, it looks totally different. The reddish-black hair, the golden shine of the body, but it does share some traits with the form we know. The golden aura, the hair standing up, and the change in Goku's personality. Daizenshu 7 even reveals that it was Akira Toriyama's own idea to have this version of the form have its hair stand up. So clearly, that was at least already in his mind. The point is that this really was Super Saiyan for a very short period of time. It's insane, especially with the context of how it's seen like today. A failed, false Super Saiyan, something that didn't quite get there. But for just 10 days in Japan, it wasn't that. It was the first look at Super Saiyan. Once we finally got the real Super Saiyan, it was completely in black and white. It took 6 chapters to get the colors for it. There, we see Toriyama coloring his hair yellow and his eyes green, while the limited color pages have his eyes red and his hair white. This is just because of the limited color palette. But with that being said, Toriyama was never super consistent with color. Goku's gi goes from blue to orange at the start of the series before he even meets Master Roshi. That is to say, these colors weren't set just yet, even if they are the ones we're used to. And at one point, he really did envision Super Saiyan having red eyes instead, surely signifying the fury behind them. We can see this in the art he made for the first Cooler movie, where Goku keeps the red eyes from the limited color. It even shows up in the first trailer for the film. This image was specifically made as a color and light reference for the anime staff, so Toriyama probably hadn't figured out exactly what he wanted to do with his eyes, if he wanted to keep them green or do something else. The movie began production before Goku transformed in the anime, and premiered only a month after it happened in the show. It's cool to get perspective on how these things were being worked on. The series was so young at this point that none of the iconography was established yet. Another version of Super Saiyan we didn't quite get was this original concept design for Super Vegeta, where Toriyama was playing with the idea of a bigger, more muscular prince. Even more so than what we got. Almost as if he was grade 3 and not 2. And in my eyes, he's more similar to what Super 13 ended up looking like, who was also designed by Toriyama. Names he floated around for this state were Saiyan Limit, and more interesting, Z Saiyan, which is pretty awesome, and completely different from what he usually did. It makes me wonder if Toriyama did want to continue the idea of the grades, or if this was Grade 3 Vegeta, or a modified Grade 2 that we never got to see. One of the most striking designs in the original series is Super Saiyan 3. The long, exaggerated hair and the lack of eyebrows is so out there even when compared to the series itself. But Toriyama wasn't always set on this look. Take a look at this one, where his hair is closer to Super Saiyan 2, just wilder and with no bangs. A more natural evolution, but not nearly as distinct. Thankfully, it seems like Toriyama later revisited this original idea for Super Saiyan 3 for none other than Vegeta and Daima, as the hair shape for it standing upwards works better for the Saiyan Prince's hair. Though we did used to have a Vegeta Super Saiyan 3 design for ages, in games like Super Dragonball Heroes and Raging Blast 2, back when we gave everyone Goku's design. Now even that's been discarded to make the user's form a bit more unique, rather than giving them all the same. Then there was this version, which is a lot closer to what we got, minus hair volume and the bang. But the biggest difference is that Toriyama gave Goku a tail, which is really interesting since he didn't particularly like drawing the tail as time went on. So at one point, Toriyama may have contemplated bringing forth more Saiyan traits with this third state, which is cool to think about when we see how the anime portrays the transformation, with the whole Ozaru section and all. We wouldn't get a magically growing tail until Daima's Super Saiyan 4, which weirdly, he didn't draw a tail for in the design sheet for the adult version. But I think that's just because he already drew it for the kid version and the idea was there just for reference. Interestingly, for movie 8, he also gave Broly a tail for his original art for him, leaving a note that this was optional. But this wasn't the last time Broly had a tail and then didn't. The original teaser comment for Dragon Ball Super Broly has his silhouette with a tail, but that might have just been to indicate, yeah, we're fighting a Saiyan this time. Broly kinda has the opposite of an unused design. In Super Broly, Toriyama only ever designed his forms up to Super Saiyan, but Toei and Shintani decided to create the full-powered form based on the legendary Super Saiyan from the original movie. He doesn't even show up with green hair in the manga at all, until recently, the cover of volume 24. So that form is kind of in a weird limbo. In the original Z film, he was also supposed to keep his gold colors, rather than be given the green tint, as you can see here in the preview for the film, but this changed for the final product. Still, you can see the yellow hair towards the end, and in the next movie. It's mostly just his aura tinting it, but it's become so iconic that green hair just kinda is Broly at this point. This is the perfect chance to talk about Super Saiyan 4. This was a huge challenge when it was first conceived. I mean, imagine this. You're tasked with creating a power that goes beyond the upper limits to follow up the most legendary manga run, and with almost no time between its ending and this new series. It's a Herculean task. Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, the original designer of GT, explains that it was hard to imagine anything beyond Super Saiyan 3 and Fusion, so he decided to tap into a sort of primal power for the form instead. According to him, the look for the form we know now was the only one ever made, but the colors weren't settled on right away. At first, he did in fact try golden hair for Super Saiyan 4, something that's kind of become iconic in the fandom as an alternate take of Super Saiyan God. Though even this design went through a few changes before hitting the screen. Here we can see that he used to have slightly bigger arms and a lack of fur in the tummy area. This design also appeared before the form's debut in the anime in the Card-as Card magazine. with a totally different color palette. This was one of our first looks at the form, and it could be a color palette they tried, but the Cardass cards also tend to just have weird colors anyways, so I think it was just that. Still, I thought it was worth mentioning. Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta also had a few different versions before settling on the one we know. From the inception of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, they already knew they wanted to give Vegeta that form too. His hair gave them a little bit of trouble though, with this early version showing it as growing backwards, rather than just gaining a bottom area. And once again, this actually looks pretty similar to the eventual Daima Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Speaking of GT, the GT Perfect Files guidebook suggests that Pan and Bra could turn into Super Saiyans if the conditions are correct, giving birth to the first female Super Saiyan. We of course never saw this in the show, but producer Kozo Morishita likely considered it, explaining that the mini Lord Lud saga established a pattern of Pan getting herself in trouble and Goku having to rescue her. They didn't want to break that by having her be ultra powerful, but said that if the episode where Pan got turned into a doll happened later in the series, then she would have likely turned into a Super Saiyan. But back to Super Saiyan 4. The original GT version wasn't the only one to go through changes. In Dragon Ball Heroes, Goku and Vegeta get Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker, a stage that covers the user in pink and red hues. This one is super interesting, because the versions of the form we didn't get are radically different. Here they are, as depicted on Beat, the avatar from Heroes. This one is just straight up the golden Super Saiyan 4 we were talking about, though the fur on his shoulders is also lifted up, as if flaming. The middle one is closer to the one we ended up getting, though this version has a spiky tail and very different hairstyle. And finally, my favorite, is this extreme take on the state that's basically a mini Ozaru. It's so weird and kind of awesome. His pants and boots even rip to reveal monkey feet. Note, the female avatar was also used to depict these alternate designs, and as the first female Super Saiyan 4, she went through quite a few different changes herself, with different hair lengths and outfits. This is just really cool behind the scenes, but it's one thing to see it as a concept on Beat and Note. Remember, these are transformations they share with Goku and Vegeta, so just imagine them in the Ozaru Limit Break or the Golden one. I kinda hope they get reused one day, even if it's just for like a what if or something. I would love to see them in action. You know, for a series that's given Super Saiyan 4 to so many characters, it's weird that Trunks never got one, but he almost did. In Heroes, Xeno Trunks gets Super Saiyan God to battle the forces of the Demon Realm, but the original plan was to give him Super Saiyan 4. The reason why they didn't is kinda weird. They just couldn't decide on whether to keep his hair purple or turn it black or something else. This strange conundrum made them discard the idea altogether and give him God instead, Chikashi Kubota, whose animated amazing sequences, such as the intro of Superhero, explains that he would have chosen black, since people wouldn't expect it, in an interview with our channel friend Vaughn DBZ. It's funny that after giving Super Saiyan 4 to Gohan, Broly, Bardock, and Vegito, Trunks ended up being the one character that just couldn't figure out the form. But honestly, as much as I wish we could have seen it, I think it's cool that he ended up with God instead. He's like the only other character besides Goku and Vegeta to get it, so it makes it a little bit more special. Looking through these concepts, it's really hard not to wonder what could have happened if GT had lasted longer. If we really could have gotten that Super Saiyan 5 which Vegeta mentioned wanting to achieve. Super Saiyan 4 feels like the one form the franchise always wants to play with and manipulate into different directions, from Limit Breaker, Daima, and giving it to basically everyone. It's really no wonder it's stuck around for as long as it has.
Kakarot, bring on your Super Saiyan 4, 5, or 6, 7, whatever you want. I'll surpass you in every way.
Before I move on from Ozaru transformations, I want to quickly bring attention to a dark part of Dragon Ball history. I know this may trigger some of you, but I need to be thorough. Dragon Ball Evolution.
First rule is, there are no rules.
I know, but there is one Saiyan transformation here, the Ozaru. In the movie, the form really just looks like a humanoid ape. He's not even that big, but the original idea for it was this. Something that looks a lot more like a demon, more in line with something that would have been Piccolo's weapon, like in the movie itself. There were a couple of other versions that were contemplated before the final design was settled on, like this one, which just straight up looks like something out of Doom, while others were more accurate to the manga, while still keeping the demonic traits. This version from the Build-A-Figure line even has Saiyan armor, perhaps teasing a future film that would never come. But enough about that, back to the real Dragon Ball. In Heroes, Goku and Vegeta got Limit Breaker while fighting Janemba, but the original Janemba film itself had an unused form we didn't get to see until much later, and in a different way. Fusion Reborn has our heroes fail the fusion and become Veku, a fat version of Gogeta. But the original plan for the film was also to see skinny Veku. We even get his design sheet, but that's not really what's special here. The craziest part of all of this is that it wasn't going to be the result of Goku and Vegeta themselves, but rather, Janemba was going to clone them both and force the clones to fuse, failing into this version of the fusion. Basically, an evil Veku. Really wild, but I understand why they cut it. The film as it is now is pretty nicely paced and tight, and one Veku was probably enough. But I can't help but wonder what could have been. Another thing I want to point out is that in the trailer for the movie, there's a shot of Goku and Vegeta fusing. But Vegeta isn't just regular Vegeta, he's base Majin Vegeta, another form we don't really get to see anywhere. Now, could the plan have been for Majin Vegeta to be in the film? Maybe. But more than likely, that was just the design sheet they had in hand, since that was the latest version of Vegeta that was showing up in the show. I wouldn't read too much further than that. But speaking of movies, the film that perhaps went through the most changes during development was Battle of Gods, the movie that brought back Dragon Ball in full force. I have a whole video about the development of this film, and its unused and changed ideas. But let's focus on Super Saiyan God. As it is in the film, Goku retains his general shape, but becomes skinnier and redder. But the film was already in production before Toriyama got involved. The idea of the Destroyer and the Super Saiyan God were present in the original draft by Yusuke Watanabe, but in a much different way. As designed by Tadayoshi Yamamoto, the Super Saiyan God would have been a much more muscular version of Goku, with hair somewhere between Super Saiyan 3 and 4, plus a cape. Not at all what we see in the movie. The hair even stayed golden. The idea was to make something even grander than Super Saiyan 3, but Toriyama completely changed it and discarded it for what we know now. One that is deceptive, since it doesn't look that strong at first glance. Something which Toriyama has done many times, making the strongest state relatively simple, like with Frieza. Either way, this might be the single most important discarded transformation in the entire video. If Toriyama had gone with a bigger, louder version of Super Saiyan God, modern Dragon Ball would have looked completely different. But he vehemently disagreed with this direction of the movie. Yamamoto even tried to convince Toriyama otherwise, and insisted that they should use the buff state, but he was denied. See, this was the first time in a long time where Toriyama was really involved with Dragon Ball. He was originally just supposed to read over the script and give some notes, but he ended up changing pretty much everything. Unlike with Dragon Ball Evolution, where Toriyama's suggestions were ignored completely, this time he actually had a chance to do something. He saw something in his work that he disagreed with and did not look away. Thanks to this caped Super Saiyan, Toriyama came back and changed the course of Dragon Ball into what we know now. But if you want to learn more about that, then be sure to check out my video all about it. Now, for the latest Dragon Ball movie, one of the strangest designs we've gotten is Beast Gohan. It's really grown on me, but when I first saw it, it was shocking. I imagine this is how Japanese fans felt when first seeing Super Saiyan 3. Akira Toriyama explained, "As for the design, I tried a lot of things. I experimented with a scary face, pale skin, and various other ideas, but none of them really felt like Gohan. In the end, I went with the approach I often use, making the hair stand up dramatically, and giving him a sharper, more intense look. Though some translations say that he had blue skin instead, which makes him even scarier, but from what I've been able to tell from translations is that pale skin seems to be more accurate. It honestly kinda reminds me of something out of Dragon Ball AF. I think the strangest part is realizing that none of these forms were inevitable. Today, Super Saiyan feels so iconic that it's impossible to imagine it looking any other way. We almost take it for granted. The same goes for Super Saiyan 3, 4, God, Blue, and Beast. They've become a natural part of Dragon Ball thanks to games and stuff like that, to the point where we tend to think of them as an obvious choice, but they really weren't. They were trial and error, plenty of imagination. So along the way, there were red-eyed Super Saiyans and many other ideas we've never seen that were abandoned before they ever had a chance to become the Dragon Ball we know now. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of discarded designs outside of Saiyan transformations. It really is a good reminder that Dragon Ball was made by real people, that it's more than just a story we like. But the reason these are iconic is thanks to everything that came before it. The discarded designs that slowly shaped the idea into its final form. Anyways, thanks for watching. Be sure to full Super Saiyan Kamehameha that subscribe button. And if you're looking for more deep dives into Dragon Ball, then check out my video all about the development of Battle of Gods.